Hal is somebody that has a heart that's huge. He's got humor that you're going to appreciate. And more importantly, he's somebody that has really an interest in making sure you succeed in your search. And he's proven that every time we meet. Hal Coleman. Hal.
Raise your hand if you have ever felt like God was calling you to do something. Oh wow, everybody's hand goes up. Sure, yeah, we all get called to do things from God from time to time. Now, my family moved to Roswell in 1837. We migrated 2.5 miles in 175 years. It seems pretty obvious that God is calling us to stay put. I really don't know why, but we're still here. My dad, me, and my kids all went to Roswell Elementary School. That's right across the street from this church. It's the Teacher's Museum now, but it used to be an elementary school. I was raised in the Roswell Presbyterian Church, which is next door to that school. My wife, Lynn, was raised in the First Baptist Church, which is just right down the road on this same side of the street. So when we got married in 1974, we had a little problem. I said, I'll just tell you, I'm not going to become a Baptist. She said, well, I'm not going to become a Presbyterian. What are we going to do? So we thought about it, we prayed about it, and I said, I think God's calling us to become Methodists. So we just compromised, and we came over here across the street and visited this church, and we really liked it, so we became Methodists. We've been members of this church since about 1976. But I actually got saved, accepted Christ after attending a revival meeting at Lebanon Baptist Church in Roswell. Now, for those of you who are not from around here, Lebanon Baptist Church is not in the Middle East. It's in Roswell. And the old church, the original church, used to be up at the intersection of Holcomb Bridge Road and Highway 9. Little church, wouldn't seat but about 100 people, little, real country church. I didn't go there. But one night when I was 17 years old, I was going to a party in Roswell at a friend's house. My dad let me take the LTD. Raise your hand if you know what an LTD is. An LTD was a big Ford family car, the last car on earth that a 17-year-old boy wants to be caught driving around. So I took the LTD on Friday night, went by to pick up my buddy Larry, and we're getting ready to leave, and Larry's dad said, where are you boys going? I said, well, we're going to a party. Larry's daddy said, no, you're not. I told Larry, he said, you're going to church. I said, church? This is Friday night. They don't have church on Friday night. Larry said, no, we're having revival this week. I said, revival? What's revival? He said, well, we have a preacher that comes in and preaches every night for a week, try to see how many people they can get saved. I said, saved from what? He said, hell, I guess. I said, okay. He said, why don't you go to church with me? And he said, then we'll go to the party. He said, it'll just be getting cranked up good about that time. I said, that sounds good. I don't mind going to church with you. So we went to revival at Lebanon Baptist Church. We went in and we went straight to the balcony. The church only seated about 100 people. Balcony would probably hold 20 people. We went straight up to the balcony, and there were 2 or 3 of our buddies up there. That preacher started preaching. I'm telling you, I've never heard anybody preach like that before. The stuff he was saying was not in my Presbyterian catechism. And he got to preaching. He was a young guy. He loosened up his tie, and he unbuttoned his button, and he finally took his coat off and threw it over to the side, and he started sweating and rolled his sleeves up, and he got to getting louder and louder, and I noticed that after every sentence he'd say, he'd get a little bit louder, and finally he was just shouting, And I told Larry, I said, that preacher's got something hung in his throat. He said, no, he said, he's just filled with the Spirit, that's all. I said, so I was listening to this preaching, so I'm standing on the front row of the balcony, and we stand up to sing a song, and I'm looking straight down, and my buddy Nicky is standing down there with this girl with long black hair. And I didn't know who she was. I couldn't tell from looking from above, and I thought I knew all the girls at Roswell. So I kept looking at her. You know, during the song, I said, sooner or later, we'll see who she is. Kept waiting for her to turn her head, and she never did. The next song, I sat there and looked at her through the whole song, top of her head. She never, you know, I thought sooner or later she'd look around, but she didn't. Well, at the end of the service, they had what they call altar calls. They sang Just As I Am, and they must have sang 20 verses. I'm sitting here looking, well, along about verse 10, somebody grabs me by the arm and spins me around, and it's this man. He said, I'm Brother Bob. He said, I've been watching you from down in the choir all night. He said, God called me to come up here and talk to you. He said, you're under conviction. I said, I am? He said, yes. He said, all night you've been standing here hanging your head in shame. I said, no. I said, I'm trying to see who that girl is. That's what I'm trying to do. He said, you can't even look up. He said, are you a Christian? I said, well, yeah. I said, I've been going to church all my life. He said, well, you see that woman down front? And I looked up there, and this woman had come down front to the altar. She was down on her knees praying, and there was about 5 other women down there with her praying, and I noticed it was Josephine Fecker. He said, that woman down there has been going to church for 45 years, and she's just now accepting Christ tonight. He said, do you know for a fact when you die you're going to heaven? I said, well, I think I am. I said, if that thing from the 7th grade is not on my permanent record, I said, I probably will, you know. Everybody in the church was looking down there at me. He said, I want you to come down. I said, well, I'm going to pass on this time. I said, let me just think about this. He said, well, I want you to go home and pray about this. He said, I'm not going to forget you. I said, oh, I'm not going to forget you. So I went home, and I did get under conviction. God called me to really pray that prayer and ask Christ to come into my life, and I did. And He did. And He's been in my life ever since. And I'm glad Christ came into my life, because I knew if He didn't, Brother Bob was going to come back into it. And I didn't want that to happen. You know, God calls us from time to time to do things.